It's James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and today I want to show you my magic formula for figuring out any Travis picking pattern over any chord progression. Travis picking is the most essential or fundamental finger picking technique out there, and it's all about the thumb. Your thumb is going to lay the foundation by playing that alternate bass pattern. You know, even if you don't do anything else, you can still hear the tune, right? You know, playing through a chord progression like that. So the first step in our magic formula is to understand how and why we do this over each of the basic chord shapes. For a G chord, you're going to pluck the thickest string on beat 1, then you skip over to the D string using your thumb on beat 2, and then you do the same thing for beat 3 and 4. Thickest string and then the D string. So you just alternate between those two bass notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the foundation, you know, that's the thing that you want to be super good at, because all the other strokes, all that other stuff, you're just going to relate it to where your thumb is. You know, so you think, am I plucking at the same time as my thumb, or am I plucking after my thumb? So the first step is to know which bass notes to pluck for which chord shape and to be comfortable doing it. I'll just really quickly demonstrate each one. For G, we already talked about that. And for the E minor chord, it's the same. Thickest string in the D string, same thing for the E chord. For C, A string and D string, that's the same for A minor and for the A chord. And then for the D chord, we're going to go between the D string and the A string. And the D minor chord's the same deal. And I know that's a lot to memorize. Like I said, you're going to learn this in context. We're going to work on some real kind of examples. And I have this all written out in a worksheet, which is on my Patreon page. And you can print that off and have that as a reference. So you can eventually, my goal for you today is to be able to just pick a chord progression, figure out how to play through the thumb part, and then add your fingers, and it's going to be a really cool Travis picking thing, you know, in just a couple steps, right? So definitely check out that worksheet for like kind of the assembly instructions, you know, like the IKEA instructions, how to put it all together. Anyways, the first exercise that I want you to practice so that you can comfortably play the bass notes, because that's like 90% of it. That's what's going to make you successful. We're going to do a simple progression going G, C, D, and then back to G. So just like that, G, C, D, G, and you're just going to count as you play the bass notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. One more time. G, and then for C we go to the A and D string, 3, 4. Then for the D chord, D, A, D, A. If you want to take that exercise further, just figure out a song that you're already comfortable strumming. Like maybe it's Country Roads, you know, and you just go, country roads, take me home to the place I belong. And remember, I have it all written down on that worksheet. It tells you what bass notes go with which chord shape. And doing that, you're going to get 90% of the way there. Now we can take a look at the other half of our magic formula, where we add our fingers. And I'm going to start out by drawing something that looks like this. This is just tab paper, 6 lines. You can print it off my website if you want to make your own copy of this. And it's on that worksheet too. And I write the counting underneath, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm going to write my chord symbol over the top. We have a G chord here. That means our thumb goes on the thickest string on beat 1. So I'm going to put a little T on the thickest string on beat 1. Then it goes up to the D string for beat 2. So I'm going to put my T on the D string for beat 2. And then for beat 3, back to the thickest string. For beat 4, it's on the D string. You know, it's the same thing that we just played. That's a visual representation of it. That's our foundation. And now when it comes to adding our other fingers, we can put them anywhere we want. The only rule, I guess, is that generally your index finger is going to pluck the G string. So anytime there's a note on the G string, that's your index finger's job. Your middle finger goes on the B string. your ring finger goes on the high E string. So just 3 in a row with your 3 dominant fingers. Your pinky finger can touch the guitar, the front of the guitar, if you want to kind of anchor your hand. I prefer floating it, you know, once you get used to it, because it's a bit less strain in your wrist. And I like to write down I-M-R for index, middle, ring. If you look in classical books, you see I-M-A because they call the ring finger angular, but you know, that's archaic, old school stuff, right? Either way, most of the time you're just gonna use your index and middle, and I'm just gonna draw out a little pattern here. I'm just gonna put the middle on beat 1, and the index on the and after 2, and then my middle on the and after 3, and my index on the and after 4. So this is, you know, standard finger picking progression. Let's break it down and learn it. It sounds like this. And that's a super common finger picking pattern. You'd hear it in like Dust in the Wind. And we break it down considering that our thumb is the leader and our fingers are just kind of following it. I'm going to play a G chord for simplicity's sake. Just one finger on the thickest string is all I need at the 3rd fret. That'll give me all the sound I need. And then my middle finger is on the B string. That's its job, is to pluck the B string. My thumb on beat 1 plays the thickest string, and I just think thumb and middle together. And my thumb's automatically going to go to the D string because we just practiced that a whole bunch, right? So for beat 2, my thumb goes to the D string, and then my index reacts to it, and it plucks on the and of 2. So your fingers either happen with your thumb or right after your thumb. On beat 1, together, and then on beat 2, after. Middle, index. So middle and thumb together, and then my index after my thumb on beat 2. And then on beat 3, my thumb, and then my middle finger after my thumb. And on beat 4, same thing with my index after my thumb. So together, after, after, after. Together, after, after, after. And if your index always plays G, your middle always plays B, and your ring always plays the high E string, you'll always have that foundation. You'll always know where you're at. And this is all written down in that worksheet, like I said before, but you're welcome to just print off some tab paper. I have some on my website, and you can just write out the counting and fill it out yourself. That's a great exercise to really understand this stuff. Let's just do another one here. I'm gonna go back to the same thing. I just have my thumb stuff, and then I'm gonna put my middle finger on beat 2, the index on the and after 3, and then my middle on the and after 4. Notice that they usually fall on the ands, and that fills it out more, you know, because our thumb is already taking care of the numbers, and if we put our fingers on those ands, it really fleshes out our pattern. But sometimes it goes with the thumb, you know, and these are all real patterns. Like this one comes from Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. When it comes to working on it, we just pluck our thumb on beat 1, and then our thumb goes automatically to the D string for beat 2, thumb and middle together, then index finger after the thumb on beat 3, and my middle finger after the thumb on beat 4. Together, after, after. And I encourage you to not only experiment with creating the patterns, you know, just adding the fingers wherever you like, but to actually practice them, you know, because it's one thing to write them out, but a total other thing to learn them. I recommend splitting it in half and just thinking, does the finger line up with my thumb or does it happen after my thumb? And really using your thumb as a guidepost for memorizing the pattern. And what I just showed you today, that's like the standard way of doing it. You know, those are the rules, but there are tons of times where you're gonna break the rules. Like for the D chord, you could go between the D and G string and then move your index and middle over to the B string and E string. So you do what you do on like a C chord, and you just move the whole thing over. Now your thumb is on the D and G. You could also, like for the C chord, instead of going up to the D string, you could move your ring finger to the 3rd fret of the thickest string. And do that kind of thing. Your thumb is doing that. You know, and you can do that for the A chord. You know, there's all these little exceptions here. It's kind of up to you. You know, there's no hard and fast rules. I'm sure, you know, maybe some like diehard classical guy would totally reprimand me for sharing that information. But, you know, this is what works for me and for a lot of other people. It's like the casual Travis picking style, and I'll let you decide what works best for you. Either way, that's it for today's lesson. If you want to learn more about finger picking, I have an entire course dedicated to it where we start a lot simpler than Travis picking. You know, we sort of tackle it from the most basic end of things. The only requirement that you would need to start the course is to be familiar with your basic chord shapes. You don't have to be super good at them, but, you know, familiar with like C, A, G, D, and, you know, all the basic stuff. We start there and we end up at a pretty cool place, quite a bit further than Travis picking actually. You know, this kind of happens in the middle of the course. And, you know, there's quite a few lessons dedicated to it. It's an entire journey. It's not just like a bunch of cool stuff that you can do. It's all sequential. We start with the easiest finger picking songs, and each lesson builds on the one before it. I'll show you exactly what to practice and walk you through everything. So, you know, the practicing is done with me. You're not on your own. All my courses are like that because, you know, I find it's the best way to learn. Either way, it's called Fingerstyle Beginner to Advanced. I'll put a link in the corner and down below for that. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the bell icon. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below or just say hi. You know, I really do appreciate hearing from you guys. Have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.